Have you ever had a burning desire to write a story, either a novel or short story, or I suppose poetry? My name is Jacqueline Hare and I'm a fiction writer, a non-fiction writer, and I also write a travel blog. And I'd like to give you 3 ideas today on where to start and get ideas for writing a story. Now, the first one, which I have used in a novel I'm writing at the moment, is family history. So if you're a family historian at all, you'd know that you find a lot of fascinating stories about your ancestors when you do your family tree. You have to be ready for anything. So I'll give you an example of how I got an idea for my novel that I'm writing at the moment, without giving too much away as to the storyline. So I had a great uncle who fought in the Boer War and then in World War One in Gallipoli. And in going through his military records, because he was a bit, nobody talked about him. Like, I only really knew about him from doing our family tree. He was my mother's uncle. And we found, among other very interesting things, that at the end of World War One, he took, he was a guard on a ship that took German internees who had been imprisoned in Australia during World War One. He was a guard on a ship that took them back to Germany at the end of World War One to deport them. Now, I thought to myself, and I didn't think this about my great uncle, but I thought to myself, wow, they had no idea what they were going back into. And of course, the people who sent them back had no idea what they were going back into either. So this would have been 1920. So the idea for this novel the novel has nothing to do with my great uncle. It's not a family history, it's a novel. But the fact that my great uncle was a guard on this ship that took the deportees back to Germany just made me think about what those Germans, and it wasn't only Germans, it was people from the Austro-Hungarian Empire as well. So and that's how it started. That's how the idea started. And the book is about the family, a fictional story of a fictional family who were descendants of someone who was taken back to Germany. So that's one way family history can be very inspiring or a very good source of information. The second thing, and this can be good for either longer stories like novels, but is especially good for novellas or short stories, and this is travel experiences. So I am I love travel, as most people do, and I do quite a bit of it. I live in Australia, but I spend a lot of time in the UK and Europe as well. And I have travelled the Middle East and Pakistan as well. So I've got a lot of short story ideas and novella ideas from my travels. So travelling, and it's not only stories and things that happen and anecdotes that can lead to these stories, but it's also the sights, all the sensory information you get, sights, smells, feelings, tastes, all of these things you get from your travel experiences are great for writing a short story, or especially a novella, and of course they can lead on to writing a novel as well. I think they're good for short stories in particular because they give you that point in time, like like an anecdote, a point in time that you can write about. And my third suggestion, which is also very good for short stories in particular, is eavesdropping. Yes, listening to people's conversations. And I sometimes overhear people's conversations. I don't go out to listen in, but sometimes you just can't help it. And some of them are quite interesting. And and on trams and trains and that. Where I live in Melbourne, we have Melburnians have a great love of Australian rules football. And I've been on a tram sometimes when all the football crowd has got onto the tram after the match has finished, and just been like, it doesn't matter whether they win or lose, they've always got something to say. There's always some sort of conversation and banter and back and forth going on, and that can be quite interesting for short stories, and particularly microfiction. If microfiction being fiction, well, it's really anything under 1,000 words, but it could be anything as short as 50 words. So they're three ideas. So family history, travel experiences, and eavesdropping into people's conversations. So I'm sure you have got some ideas of your own. If you have got your own way of getting inspiration for a story, please put it in the comments. I'd love to hear it, because it could be something that I haven't tried before, or I haven't thought of before. And that would be great. And I will be back with some more writing tips and discussion in my next video. So I'll see you then. Bye.